I don't like video essays. A video essay. Number one, I don't like how smug video essayists sound. You get the sense that they really want to think of themselves as critics, philosophers, even historians, but they're just 20-something dudes in their bedroom, sitting at their computer, the same computer they play video games on or browse Discord all day, sending threatening messages to people. A lot of these guys don't actually know that much about the world other than what they've read on the internet or gained from other video essayists that they've watched. They play video games, they watch porn, they watch YouTube, and then facelessly they spill some words out onto a page and then read that to their computer and flash images at you and pretend that they're doing something really profound. Is this the kind of person whose opinion you think is worth trusting? Maybe a million other people are listening to this person. That sort of lends some social validation to it. But who are these people really? They're nobody. I'm not saying they have to have credentials, but you get the idea. If you really pay attention, you can even find a lot of them making grammatical errors as they read off their script. And I'm not saying that I speak perfectly when I do a video or when I write or something like that, but the number of times that I've encountered a video essayist who, is speaking very sincerely, like he's talking about the most profound thing that most profound insight that he's ever discovered, and then he's reading off his script, which he wrote, and he's making the kind of errors that I have seen in my high school students, essays that they send in to me. It makes me realize the quality of writing that you're getting in a lot of these video essays are just like reading one of your classmates' high school essays that the teacher had him write. It's just this one is done for fun, which, it's great that people are doing what they love. I'm not trying to bash on people for having opinions or trying to share those opinions online. It's more just the way that these guys put on an air as they're doing something which is really just kind of simple, which is sharing their thoughts with the internet. But the kind of voice that they give to it I can't even begin to try and imitate the air of profundity as this guy unravels the secrets to understanding the latest Scooby-Doo animated series and the deep themes. You get the idea. But what's amazing is that these random guys will put up a few videos and gain an audience of millions of people. So they're clearly tapping into some kind of powerful rhetoric. If they can rally that many people spellbound to their voice. I can't do that, at least not yet. Maybe it'd be gratifying, I'm sure, to accomplish that someday, but I don't really expect to. How does that happen? They hit just the right vibe at just the right time. Think about how many scholars and writers, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, reaching the end of their professional career, who have striven their whole lives to try and get an audience with, and they have all this like amazing life experience and all of these insights, and they put out a podcast or an essay or something like that, and it's read by 20 people, and some teenager who has some thoughts about a cartoon just uploads a video and has millions. The inequality of that I find very interesting, very fun. People's conversation isn't equal. Some people are more popular, some people are wiser, and these aren't always the same people. Maybe in the long run, someone's video that has only a few hundred views now could end up being more impactful than a video that has been seen a million times right now. Because who knows how long YouTube or its videos are going to be around. Could go down next year and we lose everything and the servers get wiped, or YouTube or some version of it is around for the next 100 years You can't, you really can't know. So nevertheless, it makes you feel important now, I'm sure, to get millions of views on your opinions on such and such deep anime profundity. Maybe there's something about the spirit of youth that's making these video essayists more intuitively tap into the whims of the algorithm, and because their audience is just a few years younger than them, they sound legit. It's not that hard to sound really impressive to a 12-year-old who is trying to figure life out, and this faceless voice comes along and is asking the kind of questions that they're asking about life and about the shows that they're watching and the entertainment, and that's meaningful to people. So I'm not entirely trying to crap on that. I'm just dissecting it the way that they dissect everything else. Things that seem profound when you're 15, it doesn't take very long for them to start seeming silly, and that's, everything has its place. You're growing and learning as a person. Maybe you needed to have that experience of coming to understand that and feeling like it was a really deep insight. And if you keep pursuing that feeling and that desire to grow in knowledge, then maybe you can keep growing and learning. Some people will give up on that, and they don't keep learning anything at all. Viewed in the best light, watching a video essay is just like listening to your older brother or one of his friends give you the inside scoop on something he's really passionate about. He has some kind of like unique perspective, and you like that because you think he's kind of a cool guy and has thought of things that you haven't thought of. He's more in the know than you are. And then years later, you get more perspective and you realize that dude was always just talking out of his ass. He was just like making stuff up. He was not profoundly insightful. His perspective was only very valuable to you at that time, which means that has its place, but it's maybe not worth the sort of hushed, reverent tones that people treat it as if, like some kind of amazing conversation or discovery is happening here. I'm imparting sacred knowledge to you when I talk about how meaningful Berserk or Neon Genesis Evangelion is, or such and such video game. So all of that to say, this is my point one for why I don't like video essays. These guys are smug. They don't really have that much insight, and so they should at least express themselves with a little more humility, and maybe people wouldn't like that as much, but I think that would be more valuable for the actual conversation, having actual video essays that are theoretically valuable, and not just self-inflating kind of grandiose speculations. Number two, video essays are just a cheap way for the listener to feel like he or she is learning. We all like listening to someone who seems smarter, more knowledgeable, more opinionated than us, and we have to get our opinions from somewhere, and coming up with them ourselves can sometimes take too much work. Actual learning requires, getting into difficult books and finding teachers who can challenge us and help us grow in different intellectual virtues, and that's all just like a huge slog. So why not just find someone who seems like they kind of have something going for them and a lot of other people are listening to, and then we'll just kind of go with what they say if it feels right. But that's not what learning actually is, and that's not how you become an insightful person. You become an insightful person from listening to people who disagree with you, or listening to people who have lived a lot more than you, have a lot more perspective, or who have studied specific things like very, very intensely, more than you ever could, and they pull out all these treasures old and new from that, and you can take that and run with that with the things in your life. Okay, so point one, video essayists are smug. Point two, video essays are kind of like cheap thrill of learning, sort of like a false sense of discovery or analysis that's often much more shallow and superficial than they like to pretend, which leads into point three. It's really an emotional experience. These dudes are going on these long, grandiose soliloquies about how much so-and-so cartoon character's story arc was really a harrowing exploration of such and such, human experience or trauma, and then these themes tie into blah, 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 and then all the while, the speaker does not reveal his face to you, but instead he shows these clips of different visuals made by actual artists and people with actual vision or cinematographers or whoever, so that there's something moving on the screen and your brain kind of gets this happy buzz and like sits back and begins to dream a little bit rather than often actually thinking critically. So the effect is kind of creepy to me. It's almost like hypnosis or even MK Ultra flashing image brainwashing. You're sitting with these people in a dark movie theater while they flash images at you and then tell you how to feel and think about those images. And people line up for it because doing that feels better than feeling like you're sitting in a dark movie theater all alone. You're in your bedroom in the dark, all alone, you're all alone, and you just want to feel like someone else has watched this thing that you have also watched, has also witnessed it, and to get their perspective on things. So it's coming from this position of loneliness. So all of that said, I don't hate video essays. If I really hated them that bad, wouldn't bother to make one. And I used to love video essays when I was 15 and very, very lonely. So my reaction against them is also coming from an emotional place, a place of memory. When I stumble now across a video essay, my first thought, after thinking about how much of a smug and probably lazy thinker the speaker sounds to me, I'm reminded of back when I used to watch video essays a lot, when I was lonely and my friends lived far away and I didn't have many people in person to talk to about what I was thinking about or the movies I watched or just what was going on, which wasn't much because I was in solitude a lot of the time. And so ultimately video essays, and I think reviewers and streamers and all sorts of sort of media influencers who people glom onto, a lot of that is driven by loneliness. Maybe you don't know many insightful, funny, or smart people in your own life, or they're far away. You don't get to see them as frequently as you'd like, or the ones that you do know, you don't feel super comfortable talking to them. Maybe they're acquaintances, but you have some kind of you wouldn't feel comfortable about initiating like a thoughtful discussion. You're not sure how to take the lead in those sort of things. So what's easier to do? Well, you turn to people online who seem like they know what they're talking about, and are sort of simulating hospitality and simulating being a gregarious conversation partner. But it's vicarious friendship. It's very one-sided. You're actually becoming an audience member rather than an actual partner in the conversation. You're leaving little feedback, little inputs, comments, and all sorts of things, but you're not truly participating in a conversation until you, at the very least, join this person's Discord and get creepy messages from them. So what do I propose instead? I'm not just going to criticize. I'm not just going to tear down. I have some positive encouragement. What is that positive encouragement? Make friends with real people and talk to them about serious things. And this can be harder to do than it sounds. Harder to find these real people. A lot of people are stupid and don't talk about anything very interesting or important. They get irritated if you try to get all deep on them all of a sudden. The people who are thoughtful they're around. You know they're around. There's other people who are watching these same video essays that you are, but they're just hard to find. Maybe they're locked in their dark bedroom as well. They're not out and about, or if they are, you don't know that they have the same interest as you. You're shy, they're shy. You are missing out on all these great conversations that are possible, but it would just take too long to stop everyone and try to figure out all the possible cool conversations that you could have. So you guys just kind of keep passing by like ships in the night. You'll never realize all of the people in your radius, like locationally, geographically very close to you, who watched that same video essay or piece of media and felt the exact same way that you felt, or disagreed and would have an amazing argument with you and totally change your perspective. You don't have access to them. They feel shadowy, or maybe they're just on the other side of the world. The scarcity of good people to talk to is why video essays have such great appeal. The apparent scarcity. I think great conversations actually are just waiting all over the place, but because we have a hard time interacting with strangers, and there's all these problems and weirdness that go with that, we just we YouTube informed people. I'm thinking of myself as a teenager and everyone else in that position. We would have been thinking, well, it's just too embarrassing and too complicated to get involved with real people. So I'm just going to be in conversation with all of these imaginary friends. To bring that back around to a positive. Bring it back around to a positive proposal. If your real friends don't want to have real conversations, you should find better friends. And hold on. Find better friends, but I'm not saying give up on the people around you because you think they're deficient or something. I'm saying that if you care about what things mean, if you care about the meaning of things, and the people around you don't seem to care, or they think so differently that you can't reach enough common ground to have a good conversation with them about things of substance, then your friendships are kind of weak. You're doing yourself a favor if you at least go out and find more people who really care about thinking the things that you care about. At least some point in your life. I was blessed to end up moving from the suburbs where I was very alienated to a college town in northern Idaho, and there I found a really big community of people who love to read books, and they have intellectual discussions, at least comparatively very intellectual for the kind of evangelical Christian environment that has been a part of my whole life. A lot of those people are great people, but not super big on analytical, intellectual discussions. That's just the way that the culture is. So it's great, and I'm super blessed to have found a community that shares my beliefs and values, but also not just broadly about the universe and God and things like that. Also shares my day-to-day habits and values of reading a lot and thinking about things and talking about things. So there's a lot of just common ground and friendship and like-mindedness that way as well. Those things are hard to find. So I don't take that for granted. A lot of people go for many years in their life not having access to a community of people who are like-minded on big picture subjects, but also like-minded in terms of hobbies and personal vocation and that sort of thing. The community there in North Idaho, in Moscow, has spent decades trying to cultivate that on purpose. That was a deliberate thing that different Christians and pastors and teachers there have been trying to build. So few people have access to such a community like that because they haven't bothered to build one. And you can see why, because it takes a lifetime. It could take generations to try and build a local community of like-minded, thoughtful people. But, I get to show up and enjoy the fruit of other people's work. So I'm grateful for other people's hard work and the fact that I don't have to work so hard, theoretically. Throughout the week, we're, when I'm in Moscow, we're always having discussions, my friends and and I can see the people who I'm not friends with, and they're also having discussions, so good for them. I have to say, a lot of those conversations that we have are way more entertaining and meaningful than what I find in video essays. And having these conversations with people that you actually care about, who you actually know, and who are way more knowledgeable about different things than, rando influencer on YouTube. Those are great conversations. But it does take years to build up those sorts of friendships, if you can even find them to begin with, given your location and your interests and values and that sort of thing. So I would encourage you, don't just be lazy and get sort of that brief hit of, a profound, insightful point from a YouTube video. Be thinking long term. If you value profound, insightful things, what are you doing to help cultivate that in yourself and the people around you, wherever it is that you live? If you put in work and thought now, you can really build something, even if it's as simple as like meeting regularly with someone. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It can be, starting projects in schools and all that sort of thing. Okay, let's circle back around. Been going down some rabbit trails in terms of positive proposals. Rather than just listening / watching video essays, making friends with real people and having good discussions with them, thinking about the future of how do I plant seeds into a garden of good discussion? How do I sort of prepare for the future and help there to be more thoughtfulness among the people that I'm around? That leads to point 3 in the positive proposal. Read books. At the very least, listen to them. I don't like it when people say, I've been reading this, but they've really just been listening to it. Read or listen to old books. Writers throughout history have such a density of thinking and perspective that it just blows any contemporary video essayist out of the water. Even recent decades of kind of literary journal essayists are hit or miss. Some of them have a good thing going, but it can be a little shallow. But read the old stuff. It gives you so much perspective. You don't even need to read the really big ones. You can read the small texts. There's a lot of things that are very old, but also very short, 20 pages, 30 pages, different essays. I'm talking across the centuries here. And it can be challenging to kind of dig into those old thoughts, but their perspective is so weird and so different from ours, and it just lacks, unlike these YouTube essayists, they're not bound by the present the way that we are. We have all of these assumptions that we're bringing with us because of our current context, and these people from foreign lands and kingdoms that no longer exist, they just do not have those assumptions, and they're coming at the world totally differently. And so if you can learn to read old stuff, you can end up getting a greater excitement and pleasure of discovery from that than you do from just plopping down and listening to some guy in his bedroom talk about, what his favorite cartoon is and why it's so meaningful to him. Now, I do want to repeat, I'm not totally denigrating the video essay or those who listen to video essays. I'm not trying to say like, oh, you should stop watching YouTube and you should only read old books that are super boring. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you should challenge yourself and stretch yourself so that you can participate in both and see what the strengths and weaknesses are in both. So I'm not going to like be a snob and say like, oh, I only read old books and I don't watch any of this dumb YouTube stuff. It's like, no, actually, I think there's stuff coming out on the internet now that is way funnier and way cooler than anything that has ever been made or shared or distributed among mankind. I think the internet is the greatest piece of literature ever made, hands down, and all kinds of incredible memes and literary content is being generated constantly if you're good at curating and sifting it. So I'm not saying ignore the present. I'm just saying look at the present with greater perspective and knowledge of what people have said in the past, and vice versa. Come to the past and see what they've said then with all the chatter now in mind. It's valuable to have these things speak to each other. Get connected online with people who actually do read old books, such as myself, but there are others. They will be digging into things that you would never find out about on your own, and so everybody who reads is a little bit of a librarian themselves. Everybody's building their own little library in some ways, even if just in a metaphorical way. I'm not promising that I'll be your friend, although maybe that could be fun if you are a thoughtful person. If you're lame though, then you don't get to be my friend. Only winners. Only winners and the most brilliant people get to be my friends, as all of my friends will tell you. So give it a shot and we'll see if you are worthy. Okay, so get connected online, read old books, make your own video essays. The point isn't to get an audience so much as to give your friends something to think about. I think it's valuable to make videos even if only 20 people watch it, or 10. And maybe one of those people is just a stranger out there on the internet who stumbles across it, and you give that stranger something to think about. Maybe they become a connection. You're just kind of sending out little balloons there. And then you're participating actively, and you're not just a consumer. This is what I fear, because I saw that in myself. Like, looking back at myself as a teenager, it was just like consume all the time, and I never made anything, and I was just in a very dark place because of that. And that's my fear for the teenagers subsequent to me who are all on YouTube, all watching things on YouTube all the time, consuming, and they never make anything. And not that everyone has to be super creative or analytical or something like that, but if you appreciate something, you learn even more by trying to make it instead of just be a receiver of it. I think that's pretty obvious. So it's not like you have to try to become popular or anything like that. Just make something and think about things on your own and try to come up with your own ways of talking about things. That's why I made this essay. I don't expect it to be seen by more than 20 people. Maybe it'll be less. But if I give one person something to think about, then it was still worth saying, just like it would be to have a conversation with someone for half an hour. Maybe someone 3 years from now watches this and I make a friend from it years down the line. That's worth doing. That's internet content that's worth creating, where you're kind of sending up little I don't know what, like messenger balloons, smoke signals maybe? Smoke signals of just like, these are the kinds of things that I'm interested in. It's not about building a brand necessarily. It's just about just talking to people and not just being a lurker. I was a lurker for many years, and I think that does weird things to your head. You need to break out of that sometimes. So kind of sum it all up. I think when it comes to meaningful conversations, whether with real people, with books, engaging with books, even engaging with random anonymous strangers on the internet, take more effort to cultivate those discussions than just kind of sliding around in your recommendations in the algorithm, scrolling through this media or that media. Those are very idle thrills. Take control for once in your life. If thinking and talking about things is something that you care about, take control. Say something meaningful, and don't just consume all the time. Don't just discover other people overanalyzing blah 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 media that you like. You go overanalyze that media and then share it with people. Go and search things out for yourself. Read those old books. Spend years pursuing questions if you really care about them. If it really is so profound, if you really think this is so deep, whatever this idea that or insight that you encountered in some YouTube video, then it should be worth more time to you than just that 10-minute video. It should be something that you keep coming back to over years. Maybe you don't spend all your time thinking about it, but you keep coming back to it and building on it and trying to take it somewhere instead of just letting it sit. Maybe even if you're really looking for a drastic life change, move to a new town where you can have serious conversations with people. If the kind of place that you're in right now doesn't seem to allow you to have serious conversations. I suspect that if you're outgoing enough and thoughtful enough, you can make that happen pretty much wherever. But, people are shy. You might be shy. That's just kind of how it is. So sometimes it's better to find a place where people are more like-minded. The rewards for doing things like this, just being more active and intentional overall, are far greater than watching a 10-minute video about anime. You might make some friends. You might even discover something like truth.